All right, thanks, Steve. Didn't get to see you guys and ladies. I guess y'all don't really get spring break, but we had a great spring break. It was needed. Guys have been hard at work, players, coaches, staff since January, so it was a good break that we had. And then I didn't get to visit with you last week because of Pro Day, but that was awesome. Kudos to our guys that worked out last week in front of the NFL teams and the performance they put on, what they've done since they left here in January, what they did last season, their body of work. But it was good for them to be able to put that on display last week for the NFL teams. It was fun watching them, and there have been a lot of teams through here since then that have been coming back for individual workouts with guys where they're sending a position coach. I know we had an NFL team here Saturday. We had an NFL team here yesterday working out some of our guys individually. So can't wait to see what happens to them or for them as they lead up to the draft. Congrats to Coach Staley and the women's basketball team. Was there last night, saw many of you. What a performance that was last night. Hopefully they can keep that going for 4 more games. Best of luck to them and you guys that are going out there. A safe trip out to Sacramento. Hope they can get 2 wins out in Sacramento and then 2 wins in Phoenix and bring another championship back to Columbia. But certainly congrats to them for all they've accomplished to this point and the performance they put on last night. And for y'all, the storylines I was looking at, it was just looking at the bracket right themselves for the next 2 games. I mean, the rematch against the Sooners and then a potential berth in the Final Four, and they've got to beat either Dawn's alma mater or Jeremiah's former school. So layups for you guys that are going out to Sacramento, but best of luck to them. Really love watching them and can't wait to see what they do this weekend. A few things that have happened since you guys have left. No new real injury updates for one. We have hired, I alluded to it when John asked me a couple of weeks ago, we have hired Dre Bly to work with our defensive staff, somebody that Clayton goes way back with. I know he talked to you about it whenever he met with you last week. Somebody I go back with, known him since high school. We graduated the same class or same year coming out of high school in Virginia. He was from the eastern part of the state. I was from the southwestern part of the state. Somehow or another, when I was a senior in high school, I got invited to play in the state high school all-star game after my senior year of high school. And I was on the West team and playing receiver, and the defensive back, one of the defensive backs for the East team was Dre Bly, and competed against him in an all-star game in the summer of '95. I realized that there was a reason Dre Bly was as highly recruited as he was, and I wasn't. That was on display in that all-star game, but somebody I've got a lot of respect for, have kept in touch over the years. He's been down here to visit, pulled for him as a player in the NFL, in college. He was at North Carolina. I was at Virginia Tech. Got a great relationship with Torian, got a great relationship with Clayton, knows a lot of the guys on our staff. So when he reached out, it was a home run hire for us and a no-brainer. So he's come in, hit the ground running, will help us so much from a coaching standpoint and recruiting standpoint. Been 2 really good weeks for us on the field. Like what we're doing, like this group, like the way they're working. 2 really good weeks for us from a recruiting standpoint. You guys know that this time of year is really, really busy with February being a dead period on the recruiting calendar. Once March cranks up, it's full speed ahead, March and April especially. High school prospects going out to visit colleges and watch spring practice. And we've had a ton of prospects through here. In fact, last Saturday, Darren Usher looked it up. Last Saturday was the most number of guys at one practice with a scholarship offer from us since I've been the head coach here. So every practice we've had in my time as the head football coach, we've never had more prospects with scholarship offers at a practice than what we had last Saturday. So can't wait to continue to get more of those guys through here. It's been great visiting with so many of them. They're all commenting on the excitement, the energy, whatever you want to call it, out there on the field. And then we get a chance to get back out there tomorrow. Tomorrow will be practice 7, so almost halfway through, and eager to get to work with another week this week for sure. So questions?
Shane, when we talked to Kendall, he said it's basically about getting the base stuff of his offense in. Where would you say you are with that process? And I guess when do you plan on taking the next step into some specific formation?
Yeah, we're going to get into a little bit more of situational stuff tomorrow, David, get into some third down things. But certainly it's all about what you do on first and second down. And our guys are learning a new offense. There's a lot of new, very little carryover. and you want to be able to get that foundation to be great on first and second down. So hopefully you can keep yourself out of third downs. But we've got a good foundation. We've really been hard at work on the offense, with the offense since January. 6 practices in right now. It's all been first and second down, base offense stuff. Tomorrow will be a little bit more base down, but introducing some third down. But throughout the next, we got 8 practices, 9 practices, whatever it is, we'll never, get away from the base stuff because that's where it starts. But I think we're right where we need to be, and it's been a good, schedule that we've set up for the first 6 practices, I feel like, from an installation standpoint.
When you first updated Dylan Stewart's status in December, you mentioned he didn't need to have any surgery. Is that still the case, and where is he at with his recovery process?
Yeah, he's still dealing with something that really, going back to last season, he was never 100%. The last half of the year battled through a lot of discomfort. As we went through the end of the season, we're still evaluating everything to allow him to be the best player, best version of himself he can be when we start practice or when we start the season in September. Right now, that means just literally doing nothing. He was doing some stuff, back in January and February, trying to, he was on track, was doing some great stuff from a healing standpoint, was on the right track. That's what I told you guys. Not that he's off the right track right now, but from visiting with the doctors and specialists, the best thing for him right now from a physical standpoint is to literally do nothing and just let everything rest. So that's what we're doing right now. I got something to report. I'll report it at some point, but right now he's resting, and right now we expect him to be 100% full go when we kick the season off.
Travian's back on the field. What does it mean to have him back and just to have him going through everything with his group again to start spring practice?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, you guys know, just in life, you always remember certain moments when you hear things, and I'll never forget being in the weight room working out last August, I guess it was, early in the morning, and someone coming to me and saying, "Hey, did you hear about Travian? He was in a really bad car accident." And knowing after you heard that just how bad and how severe it was and how lucky and blessed he is to still be here, it was a lot. Emotionally for him, physically for him, emotionally for all of us. It was a long year, for him, for all of us, and a lot of reasons, because, those guys lost their coach. And to have him, each time he came around, whether it be, I think it was after our Tuesday press conference, and he pulled up in a car, and that was outside the facility out here with Kiki, his wife, and we all had a chance to say hello. That was great. And then the first time he was sitting outside the assistant coach's offices over here and had a chance to look down and watch practice, and everybody could wave to him. That was pretty cool. And then the first time he was actually out on the practice field in a golf cart, that was the next step. And then the first time he was ever actually able to stand and watch a little bit of practice last season, that was next. But to have him back out here now, full go, it's awesome for everybody. No one more so than him. I know he met with you guys yesterday, read some of his quotes, thought he did a great job, but he's great. He's great. Obviously, he's a fantastic coach, great person, loves Carolina. Actually saw him, I was watching practice tape the other day and saw him on tape jogging from one drill to the next, which is pretty miraculous when not even a year ago there was questions whether he would even survive at one point. So kudos to him and what he's about. Thank God for healing him and having him back here like he is right now, and he just continues to get better and make an impact in this program. It's a strong hat game today.
Thank you.
Yep.
Glad you didn't recognize that.
Yep.
You mentioned last Saturday being the most number of recruits with the scholarship to show up. How does not having a spring game impact how you guys have structured recruiting visits this spring?
Yeah, not a ton, to be honest with you. It's more about guys wanting to come to Carolina. So certainly when you're able to market and sell a spring game, that's a big deal. But usually with those spring games, guys had already been here for practice anyway. It wasn't like, I want to come just to the spring game, and that's the only thing that I'm going to come to. And if you don't have a spring game, I'm not coming. it stinks because they won't be able, the recruits, I mean, they won't be able to see Williams-Brice Stadium. They won't be able to see what an amazing fan base we have. They won't be able to see that, we don't have 100 people in the stands for a spring game. We've got thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the stands for a spring game. I hate that we won't be able to show that, but they'll get a good taste of what Williams-Brice is like in the fall when we start the season. So it really hasn't impacted it beyond just the opportunity to showcase the program in Williams-Brice at a spring game. It's more about getting guys here. And with the way that we've got practice, structured, a lot of kids, young men, they're coming here during their spring breaks and seeing us during the week. They're coming here especially on the weekend. I mean, there was a ton of people here last Saturday, and that's great that they want to come visit. So, we want to continue to open up practices for recruits to be able to come to, and that's what we're doing.
I know you're only a handful of practices in, but for the freshmen, this is kind of their first taste of college football, and it might take an acclimation period for some of them. But are there any that you see, even in this short amount of time, that might have proven they're maybe a little further along than you might have anticipated?
I'm not trying to dodge the question. I really feel that way in general about the whole class, to be totally honest. I think it's a really mature group. Coach Smiley is still trying to learn everyone, and he knows names and faces, but maybe not their whole story and journey to this point, who got here when. And I was meeting with them yesterday, and we were going through kind of like different units, punt team, punt pressure, and talking about different names. And he was mentioning some of these freshmen. And it was, hey, how long has he been here? Well, actually, he's only been here for like 2 months. Really? Yes, he should still be in high school. And that's a great thing, because he was saying that about a handful of those freshmen. I don't want to single guys out, but I think that entire DB group, it's really impressive. Tristan, Kasi, Jazavian, I mean, those are 3 guys that looked the part and are really handling their business on and off the field. But I don't look at it to be totally honest, with any of our freshmen and say, he's a year or 2 away, or man, he's not what we thought, or there's a lack of maturity there. It's a really, professional, hungry, mature group. And I think our players would say that too. I like the progress they've made. They've come in, they've hit the ground running. They're very driven, and starting with the weight room in January, and then what they're doing out there on the field right now too.
A few players last week described some kind of changes that you've made to practice and kind of call it like a mini camp style. Can you explain what those changes are and what led to them?
Yeah. So all spring practices previous to this year, we've followed the same schedule, which I loved. Don't get me wrong. It's been good for us, where we practiced every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we didn't practice, and we would just meet, lift, walk through to review the practice from the day before, get ahead to what you're doing the next day. And then the days you practice, you'd have a meeting about what you're doing in practice that day. Then you'd go out and practice. And it was good for us, don't get me wrong. Probably back in December, you're always looking at ways to be better and how you can improve as a team, program, coach. And certainly I'm no different. When you had the season that we had, you're always looking at ways to tweak, and are we doing this the best way possible? So Luke Day and Chip Morton, they actually presented to me back in December, a model to think about this, maybe doing it this way, where it's just when you have so many new faces each year with the portal, high school freshmen, springtime is really where you lay the foundation for everything. And it's just a newer model because rosters turn over so much. In the past, you really weren't adding many players. I mean, you go back pre-portal, you weren't really adding anybody in January. It was your team. And then it started to be prevalent where I remember early on, probably at Virginia Tech, it was like this 1 or 2 guys, they may graduate high school early and they're going to join your team. And that was like a radical change. Now, everybody graduates high school early for the most part, and you're adding so many new portal guys. Well, maybe the old way of thinking's a little outdated and there's a better way of doing things. So all we've really done, I mean, we're getting the same amount of work done, Jordan. All we're doing is we're just saying each week is a 3-day block, and we're going to do the same things schematically, emphasis over and over again over those 3 days. So tomorrow will be the first practice. It won't be anything. I think Gerald talked to you all about it. It won't be anything offense versus defense. It's literally just technique, fundamentals, scheme, but not against one another. So Kendall Briles has extra time to install the offense. Stan Drayton has extra time to work with the running backs on their footwork. If the plays we have going in this week is we're going to run inside zone on offense, then Sean Elliott can take the tight ends and they can work a backside cutoff block over and over and over and over again to just get it all, ingrained in their heads in regards to what we're doing. Same thing schematically. And then day 2, we would go out there and it would be more of your traditional practice. And then day 3, we really just, I don't want to call it necessarily a scrimmage, but day 3, we really just put it all together and just go play football. So that's really what we've done. There's no reason because in the old model, it would be, all right, day 1, you're doing first down and second down. Day 2, you might be doing first down, second down. Day 3, you're doing, say, third and 4 to 6. Day 4, you're emphasizing third down and 7+. Then the next day, you're going to introduce like the high red area. And moral of the story, I look back and said, okay, well, maybe we didn't do a great job on day 1 and day 2. You hear coaches, it's universal. You go out on the field, man, we went over that day 1, or that's day 1 install. I mean, I've heard that for my entire life. Well, Luke made me think, well, maybe we haven't done a good enough job on day 1 if guys didn't get it down. So it's really just getting it ingrained, everything that we're doing schematically, technique-wise, especially for these young guys where these freshmen that Elijah talked about, they're getting reps at what we're asking them to do so many times. You can't look at anybody on our field and say, well, he didn't get a rep at that, because that's all we do over and over and over again. So it's been good for us. I think the players like it. It's been a slow ramp up. So like tomorrow when you guys are out there, and then when y'all have been out there on previous day 1s, after you guys leave, we don't all of a sudden get together and just play football. I mean, the defense is separate, the offense is separate, and it's literally just drilling the technique and fundamentals over and over again. So, I like it. It's been good from a teaching standpoint. I think our coaches really like it, how we're, building things up. And from the players I've talked to, the returns have been positive.
I'm sure there's been a lot of mixing and matching on the offensive line so far. Can you sort of take us through the line and give us some idea of who you got plugged in where? I know it's not a permanent thing, but give us
I can't.
a few names here and there.
No, I mean, it is mix and match because we got so many injuries right now. I mean, it's not really like state secrets. I mean, I've talked to Clements about it, Coach Clements about it, that make sure we're mixing and matching where guys are, and he is. So I'll be honest with you, like if you said, Shane, who's your starting 5 tomorrow, I don't really know. What is Coach Clements going to do when we roll out there tomorrow? I don't really know, because every day is different. And I'm really not trying, I promise I'm not trying to avoid the question, but it's we are mixing and matching. Some days you might see Zion working at right tackle. Some days you might see him at left tackle. Some days you might see Dane Arnett on the left side. Some days you might see Dane Arnett on the right side. Some days you might see a guy at guard. Sometimes you might see a guy at tackle. We're really moving guys around, and people are interchangeable. Now, there comes a point where, okay, we feel pretty good about these being our top 5 to 7 guys, and here's where they're going to play, and they need to be lined up next to each other to get that communication and continuity going. We're not really there to that point, but I like the group that we have for sure. Carter Miller, he's one guy that's been basically strictly at center on the interior. He's not really moving around a lot of places. I can say that. Kojo's been primarily a guard, and that's what he's been doing. But I've told Coach Clements that we need to, really move guys around, get guys playing with different guys. We don't need the same 5 from left to right every rep of every practice. We need to build communication skills, throughout that offensive line. But I like the group. I like the portal guys we've brought in. I like the freshmen that we've brought in. Obviously, Darius isn't here yet, but Baxter and Zion are. They're doing a nice job, and that they continue to get better. And part of that too, Phil, is our depth's not where it needs to be. We'd love to, have more depth on that position, even before some of the injuries that we've had. We've got some other guys. Jacob Recker's out right now with an injury. Parker Lawson's coming back from an injury. So we just got to be smart with, how we're repping people in practice. Same thing with the edge position, because we've got so many guys out right now with injuries. We got to be smart because, Anthony Addison and Caleb Herring and Drew Collins, I mean, those guys are getting a lot of reps right now at the defensive end position because of some of the injuries we have there. So we got to be smart about how we're utilizing those guys too, and not getting getting somebody too many reps and wearing them out.
What are a few of the most important little things that you want to see out of Lenoris in the spring and that he's working on?
Knowing where to go with the ball on time when you're learning a new offense, certainly learning the offense, but then not just knowing the offense, but it's just so ingrained where you know where to go and you're getting the ball out of your hands. You all have heard me say it before. He's had some phenomenal highlight type plays where he's scrambling or he gets hit, and some of those were that he turns into a big play. He'll be the first to tell you some of those were, protection issues, but some of those are probably him hanging onto the ball too long too and not going where he needs to be, but it turns into a great play. So don't want to take that creativity away from him, don't get me wrong, but getting the ball out of his hands, knowing where to go with it. And then really for me, not to get too I don't want to get too technical from a quarterback standpoint. For me, it's just the leadership, whether he likes it or not. He's a two-time captain, voted on by his teammates. 2024, he was voted a captain. 2025, he was voted a captain. So with that comes responsibility to whom, what is much is expected, much is required, and him being the leader that we need to be. That it may not always be your personality to be vocal and challenge people, but everybody's looking to you as the quarterback, as a two-time captain, and those leadership skills. That doesn't mean you have to be all of a sudden just screaming and yelling rah rah gob, but continuing to be the person you are and take an even bigger step from a leadership standpoint. And those are the things that I want to see, and I've really been impressed with him so far, John, in regards to those things.
Kind of going back to the offensive line, just what differences have you noticed with the coaching styles of Coach Clements and Coach Smith working together? I'm sure you saw a few weeks ago there were a lot of Twitter coaches online kind of attacking Clem for his drill.
Which you started, I think, right?
Look,
okay.
I just posted a simple video.
Yeah, I also noticed you posted the same drill the next week too. That just was coincidence.
It was for the humor. But yeah, just what are your thoughts on the way those guys are working so far, and just what they're teaching and how that works?
Yeah, I think they're awesome, and from talking to other coaches that had worked with those two guys before I hired them, they're everything that those coaches told me about them, which is a good thing. They're intense, they're high energy. Almost to the point where we're on the practice field a lot of times when we are going out there competing against the offense or competing against the defense, almost to the point where I got to tell them sometimes like shut up or back up or whatever it might be, because they're so into it, which you want as an offensive line coach. Trust me, smooth. That's what we call Coach Smith. Smooth is you hear him from the start of practice to the end of practice. You hear him talking to the offensive lineman, talking trash to the defense talking back to him. He's high energy, and that energy is infectious. Coach Clements coaches hard. He's got it's proven. Yeah, there were a lot of Twitter coaches. Those Twitter coaches having coached and developed the guys that he has developed in his career. Guys that maybe weren't 5 stars that became unbelievable college football players and went on to the NFL. So I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to that. It's comical, got guys commenting on it that were, whatever. I believe in him. He's got a system. It works. It's great. He and Kendall have a great connection with one another from their years together, and they've already made our offensive line better. Really just, the effort they play with, the intensity they coach with. It's what we needed on the offensive line, and it's been fun, watching those guys come together, and will be even more fun when we get, Peak back and get the rest of that group healthy and get Darius Gray here. Really looking forward to seeing how they continue to step up. But they've got a confidence about themselves and an edge they're playing with, which is it all starts up front, and they're doing a great job instilling that culture we want on the offensive line.
Shane, when it comes to kickers, if you had your preference, would you like to have one straight kickoff guy, one kicker, one punter, or would you mind if they had to mix and match, maybe one guy does double duty?
I wouldn't mind. I think we've talked about it before. I mean, we've seen it with different ways. Spencer Lanning and all he did, and Ryan Suckup, what he could do, things like that. So I think it's up to me, it's each person. I don't want to speak for Coach Smiley. He may have a different philosophy, but as far as I feel, I don't really care. It's, who gives us the best chance to be successful without, the detriment to them or the team. Where if a kicker, it's not helping him be the best kicker because he's also kicking off, and certainly we don't want that. But some of those guys like it. They want to kick a field goal or kick an extra point, immediately go kick off, and would love to punt and things like that. So no, I think each case is different. I think each individual's different, what they can handle, what makes them the best, and it's a good group of guys out there that are competing, right now.
When Kendall was in here last week, he alluded to the best 3 or 4 receivers being on the field at once, and I don't think there have been too many times when y'all have had 4 receivers on the field at once in the past. I guess that's part of his system and to be expected, but what do you guys feel like having maybe that many receivers on the field at once could do for the offense?
Yeah, I'm not sure our tight ends would like to hear that, which as a former tight ends coach myself, I don't like to hear that. But no, we want to get our best players on the field at all times, whatever that personnel grouping is. And that's the thing I like about Kendall and this offense and what we're doing. It's got flexibility. It's you can put different people in different places, multiple personnel groupings, same formations. So I like that aspect of it. We've got a talented wide receiver room. There's no question about it. There's a lot of guys that are competing right now. There's great competition going on in that room. There was last year, and we really didn't, lose that much. I mean, I know we had 1 transfer and 1 graduate, but the bulk of that room comes back, and then we've added – Jaden Gibson, we've added DJ Black, we've added Nitro. I mean, there have been some really good players that have come in here. Charlie, we've had some freshmen that have gotten here, more freshmen coming. So that room was competitive last year. It's even more competitive now, which is awesome. So there's only so many balls to go around. There's only so many guys that can be on the field at one time. That receiver room is really, really competing right now to see who those guys are going to be. So, yeah, you've got flexibility because that's a talented group, but we've also got a really talented tight end room, too, that can do a lot of different things with Brady and Mo, and Mike Tyler's a good young player, and Max and Reno. Like that group for sure. So, position flexibility. There may be times where there's 4 receivers out there. There may be times that there's 3 tight ends out there. But the cool thing with this offense is it's got the flexibility to do all that and not have to change the whole system in order to do it.